Welcome back for a new top 10 list. And this time I am looking at my top 10 personal favorite PS3 games of all time. So with that said, first honorable mentions that didn't quite make the cut. First of the honorable mentions, Nino Kuni, which is a great game and I highly recommend it if you like RPGs and you love Pixar style, or not Pixar, but Studio Ghibli style animation. I definitely recommend it. Next, in my opinion, a greatly underrated game, Batman Arkham Origins. Next of the honorable mentions that didn't quite make the cut, but I personally really like the game, and I do recommend it if you like steampunk and different punk style type realities. I highly recommend this. The original Dishonored. If you want a great amount of mindless action, but a lot of fun while doing it and great flashy effects, honorable mention, Metal Gear Rising. I definitely highly recommend this game. Metal Gear Rising is definitely an awesome, great action-oriented game that I can't recommend highly enough. Also, in my opinion, the only good game in the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy, just my personal opinion, honorable mention to Final Fantasy 13 2. Less of the honorable mentions. Some people would probably put this as a dishonorable or a bad game. In my opinion, it's a great game. Solid game. It's easily pretty much about my favorite horror game on the PS3. Or at least horror themed game, I should say. Last honorable mention goes to Silent Hill Downpour. I actually like this game a lot more than a lot of people do, and I think it doesn't deserve the hate it gets. Just my own personal opinion, I love this somewhat open world feel, and I actually like the side quests, they're a lot of fun. Now, with that out of the way, now we go to the actual top 10. First up is a game that is responsible for getting me into a lot of more anime-based fighting games over the years, and this is the game that made me a fan of Arc System Works. Coming in number 10 is, of course, Under Night in Birth. This is an incredible 2D fighting game with actually a lot of complexity to its in-game mechanics. It is, in my opinion, it could easily rival Guilty Gear for the complexity to the actual in-game fighting game mechanics. But the game overall, I just like the bit more the art style they use in this game. Plus, it has more of a gothic type feel, in my opinion. Plus, I love a lot of the character designs in this game more than Guilty Gear, but that's just me. Everyone has their own specific game from Arc System Works they like. For me, Under Night in Birth, and then probably Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. But this game is just amazing. If you've never played it, seriously pick it up. It's pretty dang cheap. Especially if you want the PS3 game, it's a lot cheaper. Coming at number 9, another game, in my opinion, that is personally criminally underrated, and that is Remember Me. Remember Me has an interesting mechanic thing, implementation, with being able to mess with people's memories and stuff. I find that cool, but unfortunately, you only get to do it several times in the game, unfortunately, which sucks. I do like the fact, though, you can like customize combos and stuff about, because this is a third-person action game from, of course, Capcom. The game takes place in like Neo France, but I actually really like the game. Sadly, a lot of the game takes place more underground, so you don't get to really enjoy the beauty of above ground too much, but still, comes in at number 9 for me. I just really enjoyed this game a lot more than I think a lot of people have. And if you've never tried Remember Me, do yourself a favor. Check it out. If you like action-oriented games, third-person style, I think you may actually like this. I think it's an interesting alternative, like reality future. It's definitely a bit more cyberpunkish in the theme and style of the game, but also I like this, just certain elements in this game a lot, and I think it's interesting the fact it takes place in France. That's another thing that makes it quite interesting to me. Coming in at number 8 is easily one of my favorite of the Assassin's Creed series. For me, 8th favorite PS3 game is Assassin's Creed Rogue. I cannot recommend this game highly enough. I definitely say if you have a 360 or a PS3, do yourself seriously a great opportunity and get this game. It's unique compared to any other Assassin's Creed game in the franchise. And plus, I like the fact that it starts out like in Ireland. I really like that, having Irish characters. Plus, I love the naval battles. I think are a lot of fun in this game. Maybe not as grand or whatever as Black Flag, but I think it's still great. It took a lot of the elements from Assassin's Creed 3. Plus, I like the backgrounds with the snow, ice, and stuff. It makes it more interesting and gives it a bit of a different feel from other Assassin's Creed games. Being this was the first one, it really took place in more northern part of the world. Atmosphere and just domain. That's one thing I really like about Rogue. Coming in next at number 7 is arguably one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time. Coming at number 7 for me personally is Star Wars The Force Unleashed. Now, of course, this is the Sith edition, just because I'm an uber Sith fan. But I love this game, and I love the character Star Killer. I think it's interesting. It's unfortunate, however, this is not canon. This is Legends, which sucks, because the character and the story I actually think is pretty solid. The gameplay is actually a lot of fun. And the times you get to play with Vader, boy, you want to talk about a busted character. Way overpowered. Though, to be fair, as time progresses, you can become very overpowered with your main character. I also like this version because it adds extra stuff you couldn't have done in the original. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a really great action game, not just a great Star Wars game in my opinion. Coming in at number 6. The Darkness 2. The Darkness is a great, incredible game I can't highly recommend enough. Though personally, I like The Darkness 2 a little bit more than the first one. I think the overall story is great, the pacing is superb, and I love the whole horror elements and feel to the game. It's very dark, very gritty, very graphic in the blood and gore domain. But that's kind of how it's supposed to be, given the comics are pretty bloody and gory, just like Spawn comics. So at least it managed to be very loyal to the comic book in many aspects, in my opinion, and the gameplay itself is really good. This is a game I recommend highly, especially given the price tag on Darkness 1 and 2. Just get both games. And this is what made me a fan of the comic series, is thanks to the games. One of the few times a game got me into the comics instead of the other way around. But with that said, comes pretty high because of how much I like this game and the fact I've played it multiple times. Also, the music is great. Now we get to the top half. Coming at number 5. Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. I know most people are immediately going to say, what about Ultra Street Fighter 4? Yes, it's the most complete package. But there's different elements that I prefer in Arcade Edition, personally, for me. And also, I do like the addition of course, the fact Evil Ryu and Oni also make it awesome. But for me, I just like the feel and the play of Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. everyone has their own favorite version, especially like Street Fighter 2. Everyone has their own favorite version of Street Fighter 2. In the end of the day, mine will always be Turbo, but yeah. For me, Super Street Fighter 2 Arcade Edition, easily my favorite version of Street Fighter 4, and yeah, it's my fifth favorite game on the PS3. It's a game, this was the first version of the game I personally owned. Not the first version I played, however. Coming in at number 4, I'm sure there's going to be some people who disagree. Now, you are better off playing the Ultimate version, but I love Dead or Alive 5. Comes in fourth place because of how much I like the game and some of the characters it would actually introduce. Among others, of course, a lot of future, mostly DLC characters, but also one of the things that got me really enjoy this game was the fact the introduction of Virtual Fighter characters. The online play, not the greatest. You're better off playing more current gen version of this game, that being Last Round. But still, for the beginning, and the fact this would be the first game really with like a full story mode. Though, of course, you would have, in my opinion, the best sort of story mode in Dead or Alive Dimensions. Strangely enough, a handheld. Um, and Dead or Alive 6 is interesting to say the least. But for me, Dead or Alive 5, I love this game. I always will. It is arguably probably my second favorite Dead or Alive game of the series numbered entries. Number 1, I think pretty much is going to remain Dead or Alive 3 for me personally. But with that said, next coming in at number 3, we're going to go back to another AC game. Coming in at number 3 is, funny enough, number 3, Assassin's Creed 3. This was the first Assassin's Creed game I really got into. I have played previously a little bit on and off of the original AC. I didn't play Assassin's Creed 2 until much later on, which is maybe why I don't have the connections much to Ezio or Enzo, however you want to say his name. Like, most people always choose AC2 as their favorite. For me, it's Assassin's Creed 3. It was the first one I actually owned. So, I have a special place for this game, more than many people. With that said, and I am glad it got remastered, I also really like Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation. Side game. But seriously, I like this mainly because of the time period. I love American history. Yeah, there's not a lot of 100% real history in this, but with that said, they did a great job with the detail, the backgrounds. I love the hunting in the game. I think it's a lot of fun. Just roaming through the woods. Also, with the introduction of naval battles, this game really would be a game that would revolutionize the entire franchise as a whole with the whole naval battle thing. And I think it's what has led to the growing popularity of like naval battle type stuff in games. Including, you could tell this game was influential even in the Pirates world in Kingdom Hearts 3. You could tell just from certain elements that this was influential in many future games. Even though AC4 gets most of the credit, AC3 was the one who did first. Coming in at number 2 is a specific, more a collection, but one specific game, of course that being the Dead Center. For me, number 2 is Journey. Though I highly recommend the Collector's Edition for the other two smaller games, but for me, Journey is about the experience. And I've always played the game in one playthrough, because you can usually beat it between anywhere from a 40 minutes up to like maybe 80 or 90 minutes. It depends how much, if you want to take your time and just enjoy the beautiful music, the beautiful art style of the game. Personally, I love it. It's a great game to play if you just want to relax, lay back, and just get away from stress. Journey is a game I highly recommend. If you have PS4, just get the digital copy. But you can get this game dirt cheap. It's more than worth the asking tag price. But I do recommend trying to get the collector so you can get these other two little games with it. Though Journey is by far the best game out of the bunch. The other two are very simple. You could say the same about Journey, but as I said a while back in a review of Journey, it's just a breathtaking experience. And it's fun if you can even get to join with somebody else that might be playing online. Believe it or not too long ago I replayed the game for the fifth or sixth time. I actually came across somebody else that was playing the game at the same time. And that was cool, getting to go through the game with somebody you didn't even know and just enjoy the experience with someone else. That is really cool. And it's an experience that I feel Journey is one of the only games that has actually done this. This was also the game that made me become a huge fan of indie games. It all goes back to Journey. Journey was the game that made me become a big indie fan. So thank you to Journey, thank you to PS3. Coming in at number one, though, there can only be one at top spot. Coming in number one for me personally, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. My favorite fighting game of the 2010s, as well as easily my favorite video game on the PS3. It's my favorite of the crossover games, period. No rival, no nothing. And I do appreciate the fact Hudson Soft was involved when they were still existed. Screw you, Konami. Now, with that said, this is a great game. I can't recommend it highly enough. I know it's weird. I chose Dead or Alive music I chose Killer Instinct music in the background to go with a PS3 list. I know it sounds weird, but that's just what I was in the mood for. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Leave a comment. Tell me what are your personal favorite PS3 games of all time. But with that said, stay safe, and I'll see you all again. And I hope everyone is having a good early 2021. Stay safe. See you next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.